Ooh, happy Saturday. So today I'm hoping to move towards finishing a lot of the inventory flows that we have right now. Ignore the fact that things don't close appropriately. I will be spending some time on that. Probably next. Basically, I think what we need is a game mode switch. So when you're in menus, a bunch of other things close and outlines or input stops taking feedback. Um, or you probably just move to a different input scheme. So I'm working on that, but that's for a later date. Right now, I have two, one, two. Yep, and you can actually see this happening live. This looks trivial, but it's happening through a pipeline that took a little bit to get set up. It's happening through um, delegates that we're using to dispatch updates throughout the game. This is important because eventually we're going to have like a little chat log down here that'll say, Billy picked up Feather or something like that. And likewise, there may be a notification in the center of the screen that shows, picked up 1.5 monies or something like that. So uh, the way that this works is that that won't require any extra infrastructure. So our item system is good, but there are obviously a couple of issues. One is that when I click on these things, I successfully loot them, but the loot doesn't go away. So I'm gonna start with that. Um, so yeah, that's the first thing. I'm trying to remember. So this would be probably be under container loot widget, I guess. Yeah. Sorry. It's early still, and I'm a little bit. Oh, you know what I should do? I need to post. I can probably make a bot to do this. I guess I will remember to do that in the future. Okay. See what we're doing. Okay. Let's get back to it. So I believe that this should be our container loot widget. Yeah, here's our handle click. So I think all we actually have to do is here for that reminder. We should have a function for set empty, I think. Stack container slot contents. Empty container slot. Yeah, there we go. So I think all we actually should have to do to fix this behavior is empty container slot. Um, that's interesting. Yeah. I kind of feel like I'm trying to avoid taking index as arguments anywhere here because these could change very easily. And I think it's going to be more resilient to use pointers to the actual unique identifiers of the item instances. So I think probably what I'm going to do is rather than um, yeah, rather than trying to find that there, what I'm going to do here is Hey, thank you, Copilot. I think the if is pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think that should do it. So then what we would do is here, we're going to enter the container slot of the player inventory container ID at the GID. And I think that's actually all that we should need to do. So for a naive solution, I'm kind of hoping this will work. Oh, and you know what? No, it won't. No, it won't. And the reason for that is that we have to watch for the delegate in our prefab. So, inventory, container loot widget. Here's our guy. Container loot widget. Yeah. So what are we doing? I think the way that this works for the actual proper inventory widget is, if I remember correctly, that's interesting. How does it get its slot grid? Okay, I feel like this won't work, and my guess is that does this only work in the HUD? I think I screwed something up because I don't think I created any hookup logic for um, yeah, okay. Inventory widget. Is this used anywhere actually? I feel like it's almost definitely not. Like unless it lives somewhere nested inside the inventory screen widget. No. Yeah. Okay. So I should delete this because I'm just confusing myself. Okay. That's what I thought. So this is a better example, which is basically we're taking a slot grid reference to the slot grid script that lives deeper within this widget. So you have the kind of this is a common component that I use for any kind of representation of a slot grid. And uh, the well, hang on, I'm getting my wires crossed. We need right. Okay, we need this to be able to dispatch updates. That's why we need it. So same deal. We're gonna go. So for our inventory widget, we need a serializable slot grid that can go up inside of our container loot widget, which is great. Um, uh, is this really? Huh. Oh, you know it's probably. No, I'm actually a little bit confused about how this is working. I think I need to remind myself. So here's our container loot widget. Um, is the HUD managing this? Lua widget slot grid. So it is. Okay. Or maybe it's not. Lua window slot grid. Oh, is the UI manager? I don't know if I like that. Okay. Um. hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes a certain amount of sense. Hmm. Does it though? So we have a. So where do we use this? Container system component. Okay. So this is probably being used. Okay, so we have an open container function here, and my guess is that that open container function, right, is getting called via the prefab. So, uh, probably, where would that be? Too many things. Yeah, yeah. So this is how it's done. So it's an object system that can be run. And right, so I just did this as a proof of concept, but we probably should have like a container prefab that I haven't built yet because I'm lazy. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. Um, hmm. So the thing that I'm still a little bit wary about, I don't love that we're initializing our uh, our slots here. That feels wrong for a lot of reasons. So I think definitely um, try to get value. So I don't hate the idea. So I think really what I'm feeling is like this should be divvied up into two sets. I don't like the idea that we're getting access to nested elements of prefabs here. So I think that my also is there a reason that this the window slot code is not null? It never will be. Okay, so this is scuffed for a number of reasons. I probably was just kind of doing this feverishly last week. So all right. What do I want to change here? I'm going to close some of these because I'm going to be doing pretty specific work here. So get rid of this. I'll leave container slot. Container manager might get used. Inventory widget won't. Might. Will. Okay. So I think that the first thing, yeah, if we have this slot grid, then one of the things that that means that we can do is because the slot grid lives in the same prefab, it is basically guaranteed to because we're not going to be making variants of this prefab. Or at least if we are, they will all have the same core structure. Then we can bet very easily on that always existing. So container loot. And here's our slot grid. So if we have that, then my thinking is that we have the same. And honestly, I'm kind of realizing that this might be something that is worth abstracting because we have the same rough flow inside of. So could we abstract this? Um, our inventory widget does this, right? Um, hmm. Yeah, so the only thing that I'll think about that. For now, I think I'm gonna copy pasta, but I've been okay about not uh leaving things janky, so I'm gonna bet on my ability to come back and fix this later. I think just about anything that is showing the contents of a container will want to subscribe to onContainer updated, and will also have an init slot grid enumerator that you'll want to run on awake, basically. Um, or at the very least, I guess that might be wrong, but we'll have an init slot grid enumerator that you're going to want to be able to dispatch when the widget is enabled and given as items. Hmm. And really, it's not even about an inventory system component. In this case, it should be just a container system component, right? Inventory system component is a descendant of container system, and I think this will work the same no matter what. And I don't want to call this a manager because it really kind of isn't. Because it's very so honestly, this is probably a controller. I think is if we're going with Unity nomenclature. So what you'd be able to do is can I extract this into a separate mono behavior? I think I probably can. So, or I mean, really here, I don't even know if there's a need to have the rest of this file. So we subscribe to container updated. We, in this case, get a player reference. Inventory system component. Yeah, yeah. Um, player reference. We're not even holding a reference to the player. So this definitely seems like it's abstractable. So I am going to try that. I'm going to try it now. Yeah. Realistically, there's no better time. What else am I doing? It's foggy out. Stuck here. Let's make it happen. Okay. So I'm going to call this container grid controller. That's a good name. I'm going to go to the inventory widget. Nope. That was not what I was trying to do. I'm going to copy pasta this whole thing. It's really, I think there's many more things that we will not be changing than what we will. Container grid controller. Looks good to me. So a few things are occurring to me here. In the case of the inventory widget, which is the player's inventory, this value will never change. Sorry, this value will never change. it will be changing for the loot window because we only have one loot window and that just bounces around the screen to whatever container you have open. We don't do one per container. And I'm actually pretty confident that that's the right way of doing things because it stops game object bloat, especially for areas with large numbers of containers. So, um, we need to think about a way to manage this state. Um, so, I think this needs to be. Excuse me. I'm kind of okay with it being private. We'll probably have a more complex setup in a method. Spell. Hello. All right. One more of these. This is probably not something that we want at all. So I think that actually does it. It's just kind of inert. And we need some kind of setter to so what's gonna happen here? I guess. Okay. This is actually not bad. So we might be closer than we think we are. In a slot grid. Yeah. So we start a waiting enumerator that holds off until uh, so whenever this is enabled, we wait until we have a container system component, which will be a minimum of 1 frame. Oh, excuse me. This actually might be everything that we need. That and just like a setter. Right. So, okay, let's try that. Click void. Yeah. And when we set the container system component, we probably also want to see. Okay, this is interesting because now I'm kind of thinking that like, is it even on enable? I kind of am thinking that on enable we want if it's not null instantiate slot widgets, and that this coroutine is actually just extremely unnecessary. And the same idea here will be to do that when and if. And this means that we don't need a coroutine, which is helpful. Okay. So if we have it, instantiate our slot widgets whenever we enable. If we don't, then when we set it, instantiate the slow, it's just okay. I mean, this feels like it might be. Gotta consider that. I have some thoughts about this, but we can worry about that in a sec. So, if we have this, then my thinking is basically that we should be able to give the container loot widget itself a container grid controller. Slot grid goes there, and then that means that the container loot widget doesn't need this at all, and it's just handling clicks, which will be unique to it. So we're not duplicating much of our logic, and we could even potentially make this compositional. So I guess what we could do is so where does everything go? So we have our HUD. Basically, this should no longer need to be tracked, and I think that that's a good thing. So let's just trace what breaks as we do this. We should still have our loot window, but I don't think that we should need to have a slot grid in our HUD. And based on that, your UI manager will have something here. Yeah, so this coroutine was just been forever. Um, hmm. Yeah, okay, open container does this, does that. I think in our case, what we want is basically, we don't care about this. We do care about the container. So I think this can now be a void. What we're doing here is I actually think this should be moved up here. And I'm increasingly wondering, is this ever called anywhere else? Okay. So this feels like it should just live in here. I don't really think we need a custom having a separate function seems like overkill. And if we have that, the biggest problem that we have right now is that we have this slot grid. Do we care about... Yeah, we do. Okay. So I think probably... Does a container system have an identifier? I don't think it does. I think the container system, it's one container system to one ID. So there won't be a specific identifier. I think realistically we probably pass the container system. So, all right. First thing that we're gonna do here is give the container loop widget a private system component. Now that I'm thinking about it, is that do we even need that? Probably not, right? If it's just being, we could hold that reference here, but I don't think we're ever going to need it because we're not subscribing to any element of it. So okay, I actually think we don't need this. I think it'll be public and what we do need is serialized container grid controller. And yeah. So that's what we would do. And then probably in our inventory widget or in our this feels a little bit brittle because we're doing a lot of pass-throughs, but I actually am kind of okay with it. I don't really see a lot of other ways that this could work. These are going to be tightly coupled systems. There isn't really a way to have. I mean, the best that we've done currently is created a common grid component for inventory slots, which is good, and we like that. You might be able to do some event-driven workflows with drag and drops. I'll think about that, but I think it's kind of almost inevitable that these are going to be tightly coupled systems because they're so data heavy. Well, we'll see if I'm wrong, but in either case, it's not a big deal. Container grid controller. Still have mixed feelings about this, but I'm just gonna ignore it for now. And then our UI manager should be able to completely get rid of its slot grid reference and oh. Get rid of this, and this will no longer exist. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually... all this. Then yeah, and that should mean that whenever we need to do this, we should just be able to do that. I think that's actually it, right? So what are the pass-throughs here? We have a container loot widget, which is setting the container system component of our container grid controller, and that will save a reference to that and instantiate slot widgets. Am I wrong for thinking that this will work? Yeah, something we should do. Unavoidable. Okay. Well, let's try it. Do not expect this to work instantly. Nope. What is happening here? Oh, that would explain it. Yeah. We can just... Well. Oh! Um... Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't even really considered it, but so Lumino. Oh yeah, this shouldn't be a game object. This should be controller. And yeah, I guess in fairness, we wouldn't even really need. This is what I get for letting Copilot take the wheel. And that would have the benefit of us not needing to have a pass through here at all, actually. Which is nice. Okay, sure. I'll buy it. something else getting angry at me. Loot window, grid controller. That's interesting. Okay. Where is... This feels like it's more of a prefab issue. This might be due to the way that enabling and disabling things works. So I'm still sort of familiarizing myself with that. So does get component not work? If the component is if the parent game object is not enabled? That would make sense. Container manager, UI manager. So hold on. No, I mean that was the last thing that we did. So yeah, that said, realizing. There's really no reason why we need to have a setter for this. We can just do it in the editor. Then what we would have to do here is to in our no, that's because this isn't part of the prefab. I take back everything I just said. We absolutely need to do this. So that is interesting. Why? Public object window. Yeah, no, I absolutely need that. Interesting. So this should be happening. Is the issue that the loot window? Yeah, that's probably what it is. So we're skipping a frame there, which is to wait for the UI managers to not exist. Okay. All right. You know what? This is if we're only using it on player input, then I'm actually fine with just using it. With just doing this then. Should do it. Check. Oh, hello. I'll tell you what. I actually bet this is working, and that's the issue. Container slot. That's interesting. So, hang on. Because that should be happening. And I'm a little bit perplexed. The order of operations may be an issue, but what should be happening is that that slot should be getting emptied out. That's working. Um, yeah. So this is set item instance ID. That my guess is that that's actually what's happening here. So set item instance is going to here. I mean, you'd expect this to actually be getting called. So I think this is just something silly. Because it does seem like it's getting the update. That's the first weirdness. No, so maybe it's not getting. Oh, that's super weird. Oh, do you know what? Yeah. No, it's not. Um, I think that pretty much has to mean That's so strange. Okay, hang on a second. And nothing happens. In particular, the loot doesn't work anymore, which is really interesting. Or actually, wait, it probably does. You just can't do it infinitely because the item is now empty. And yeah, okay. So that element of it is working correctly, actually. So if I go here, 1, 2, there's now a red. So the setting slot to empty, setting item instance, ID. This part is really interesting. I think I've desynced something somewhere. So my next question is, if I open, I feel like we are trying to set this function too early. Right? Like, I don't really know how else this could be a thing. Either that or we're getting a weird reference, but oh, that is so interesting. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so that is exactly what's happening. If let's try templating this with index and because that I think is the crux of what's going on here. Is that we're probably hitting this. Otherwise, well, this is also a possibility, but I'm not sold on that yet. It'll update container inventory player for container chest. Oh, okay. So this actually, so we're not firing when we set it to empty, for whatever reason. Okay. I mean, that's probably very easily fixable. Empty container slot. Container manager instance. Container system component. Yeah, there we go. container grid control. We're going with a container ID and a GUID. Container ID, GUID. If okay, let's just see beginning end. That actually happens. And to a degree, the last thing that I'm curious about is, am I mistakenly? Yeah. Oh. Okay. So, oh no. No, that's not me. Emptying container slot with item instance. No, that's it. We don't get that far. Uh, the so what would be happening here? Yeah, so let's try every step here. I mean, this pretty much guarantees that this is what the problem is. But well, okay, it could also be this. So, oh, I'm dumb. Let's try this one more time. No, that's it. Okay. Uh, Interesting. I'm sure that whatever is happening here is just me being stupid. So, what happened? Container ID. So we can just. This is definitely. I shouldn't say this is not the issue, but it doesn't seem to be the issue. Four consecutive times. Oh, that's 100% what the issue is. Maybe? Yeah. So the problem is that we're... Okay, this is actually definitely just... So there's a handle click. Uh... Yeah. Shit. So this is referencing the player's inventory when it should be referencing the container's inventory. Yeah, that's a problem. Um. So here is our container grid controller. That should allow us to do. I mean, this is a very janky way of doing this, and I'm kind of so right now, like, the struggle is where should this live? Because I think conventional wisdom would be put it at the top, but this container grid controller is always going to need this. So it kind of feels natural to have that be the source of truth, and that be where it's set. And other scripts, regardless of where they live in the hierarchy, read it from the container grid controller. And it's a controller. Okay, I'm fine with this for now. I'll re-examine. I'm probably gonna need to diagram this out at a later point. But I'll ignore that for now. because I'm lazy, and it's Saturday. All right. Figured. And all we should need to do to make that work is go into the prefab for our loot widget, and oh, we already did it. Right. True. Okay, sure. So I think that should do it. Yeah, get a lot of logs. But... Nope. Hmm. Oh, duh. It's like, what? Should probably remove those logs. But this is sort of a thing where it either will work or it won't. Hey! Close it, open it. It's working. This guy open. Yeah, I gotta do counts. That's doing it. It is doing the thing. Alright, let's clean up some of the logs I have because this is getting nasty. Honestly, that should probably just be its own task at this stage. Leaving error logs in probably makes sense, but I think I've done a pretty problematic amount of debug logs that are just floating around at this stage. Got a container slot. What? Am I not able to? Okay, I have to like up my writer foo at some stage. But let's start with this. Log errors are good. Okay, this file's fine. I'm gonna close all these guys. Enums are not gonna have any. this works. Okay. This I'm fine with. These I'm all fine with. Also fine. Fine. State manager. Yeah, nothing there. There. Oh, that's surprising. Yeah, okay, this is just like a big offender. I'll probably at some point try to set up log levels, but for now, these are just getting really loud and stopping me from seeing important things. These anymore? Yeah, cool. Right. Systems. There's gonna be much here. Hold off on that. Yeah, I don't think I have any dice rollers. A lot of the ones are going to be recent. Oh. Alright, this is the inventory widget. Yeah, we can probably... So, keep that in mind. Okay, let's see how many we got rid of. Still got 12. We still have processing. Just some dev utils. Yeah, I think I just copy pasted this, which is a huge problem. So do as I say, not as I do, because this was... I'll leave that there as a reminder that that is where these are coming from. Now I think we should only have one log that runs on game init. Nice. Okay. So we still have some logs in the container controller that we don't need. And I suspect one more somewhere else, but we'll see. Nope, we're good. Okay. Wow. It's a headache. Now, coming back to the actual issue from the beginning. Well, I mean, it's fine. These are things that I built a long time ago, and unfortunately, uh, didn't really have a way to test them at the time. So, not a huge surprise that there were some growing pains there. So, the loot widget. This is what I was talking about. This is probably okay, given that it's being executed synchronously in the same frame, so the player won't really have a chance to spam click it or anything like that. If I see... Yeah. I'm kind of... Yeah, I'm inclined to say that as... Yeah. This feels like it's something that should live in the manager. So I think what I'm going to do is to create a transfer item utility that basically does exactly this. So let's do that. Add item to container. Yeah. So yeah, what we should be doing is in our container manager, have a function called public item. Um, so the first thing that we do is empty it in the source container, add it to the destination container, and neither of these will ever be null, so that's fine. A part of me kind of thinks that we should have like some kind of what is Copilot saying? Instance ID instead of the item instance. This is a thought. It probably isn't a huge issue. Honestly. But this is a thought. Okay, well, not a big deal. and from the container to the player, GUID. It should also be private. Just the same thing. I'll just okay. Cool. That should do it. And I think that'll still work. So after this, the question starts to become, yeah, what other behaviors do we need? Well, we need to be able to show numbers for items with stacks. That's a big one. And we probably need to have some kind of intelligent way of disabling crates that have been fully looted, right? So once I mean, we don't want a per frame check. We want it to be event driven. There probably isn't ever going to be a case where I mean, the worst case that'll ever happen is that you open it up and you see an empty box, which is fine. So, but basically, when you have looted everything, and this it should, the loot box should close, and the container system should disable itself, I think. So, I think we can probably put that in the container system. That would be in systems, inventory, container system component. Do I already have it? So, bool is empty. Cool. Not too bad, and that should, I think, mean that Oh, interesting. Because we'd want it to happen here. Or I guess, well, no, we definitely would not want it to happen. Interesting. Okay. So this is kind of where the problem comes because you would expect probably a few things to happen here. And one thing is basically that um, yeah, you want a lot of things to shut down here. Which is good because it validates that the delegate workflow that we're using is going to enable that. But I'm puzzling over how to do that. Also, the game is currently very broken because I changed a bunch of things that I shouldn't have changed. Or rather, should have in the moment, but never changed to the back. 30. That might be all I need to do to fix it, but I need to check whether things are working in our build. Because last I checked, there's no bueno. Last time I tried this, yeah, got problems. So up and left, up and right are no longer working for Dragon. Which, probably a quick fix, but I have to do that. On the bright side, yay. Yeah, we also need it to automatic. So there's a few conditions in which we need to automatically close these interaction prompts, and I'm thinking there may be things like crafting windows or other types of dialogues that don't freeze the player from walking away. If the player does walk away, we need to do some kind of distance tracking to see, like, should we close the thing? So player gets this far away, and that's not a big deal. Tell you what, it's working. How long has it been? I have been streaming for a couple hours now. It's only 45 minutes. It's gonna be really embarrassing. Yeah, about an hour and a half. Okay. I am going to go touch grass, but farewell.